again, to reiterate what he was saying, what they wanted to do was spread out, but they wanted to have this base. Ken, at that point, prior to that time, Ken had not been involved. When he did, he was interested in that point that was politics, I mean moving, electoral politics.
Yes.
And he tried to run in '66 and didn't make it, but that had come up in the meetings,
right.
The idea of moving outward politically, doing
yes.
all these things, and we still trying to consolidate.
Right.
And it caused a lot of tension and problems within the league.
Yes.
At the same time, remember this decision that had come out in the executive board, as I understood it, didn't fare very well with the workers
yes.
down below. It didn't fare very well, and it's more or less where we were. And of course, the division with regards to the idea of some of the people talking about, well, these ultra-black nationalists, and we can't move with them. We got to get abroad and move out. And that's why I told you last night they brought Jane Fonda had come in. I'm not quite sure what her role was going to be. But their total thing was to move the organization out, and I want to confirm this. It isn't that we didn't want to go, but at a certain pace. This was not at that point, before he mentioned the resources, because that's what was going to happen. The resources was going to be deleted in a direction where they were going to go.
Right.
And it posed just one thing. I remember when we were playing a softball game, and it had come to the point at that point, the split had not formally happened. But Jen asked me, what did I think we should do around this BWC? I said, well, look, why don't we just develop a program? And in the program we developed, the workers were basically in control.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I wouldn't go sit with Mike and them. We had this meeting in Baltimore, Maryland.
Right.
We went down to Baltimore and presented the program.
Yes.
Well, at that time, the nucleus that Mike and them had was not the core base of the league.
Yes.
They didn't have that base. So they had a group of intellectuals and so forth, and they denied it.
Yes.
We were saying. So from that, we went on. We left. That was the end of it.
So, Brother John, Brother Ruth, if you don't mind, let me just probe this with you a little bit more, because it seems that both of you are saying in different and overlapping kinds of ways that the thought process or the decision-making process or the debate, if you will, that emerged within the league with regard to what the BWC was intended to be, what it would actually mean for resources, what it would actually mean for the further consolidation of the working class base around Detroit. It seems that there were some real class issues that were actually, if you will, bubbling up in terms of the orientation, the agenda that was being followed that would be followed if the BWC was to actually get the resources, if the league was actually to take the resources that would be necessary to try to build this thing, and if the league resources in terms of political organizing would be diverted to the BWC effort. Is that accurate at all, the way I'm characterizing that?
Oh, well, this is my characterization, right? First of all, at one point, particularly among the workers and some of us too, is that, like Foreman is kind of like an outsider in a way. And he has, and Foreman over the years have all these contacts all around there. Now, people raise questions. Well, why haven't all those other things flourished? A few things and all that, and then all the kind of willy-nilly stuff. So we haven't established any kind of really solid stuff in all these other places. And it's just like, trying to connect the dots, and the pins and the dots are weak, so wait a minute. So it's the idea that you have somewhat of an outsider coming in with a little groovy and scheme, and has an appeal to, and more of an abstract thing, an ideal thing, rather than a nitty-gritty. And so, like, for instance, I'll just characterize as the general fraction. They were the basic nuts and bolts people, right?
Right.
John and I were kind of could see maybe the benefits or the positive in both things, knowing this and knowing that, but not, combining it in a certain way.
Yeah.
So that's why we kind of like kind of the middle force, and then you have the general concrete things, and then solid base, and the kind of character and things that are required to hold that fabric together, right? That personal relationships.
Yeah.
And then you have Cockrell and especially Watson all operating on a more abstract theoretical level with some good ideas and all that. So how do you combine that kind of stuff in a realistic way? So that's why we kind of at least I saw myself looking, because I could see like basically the benefits of both. I mean, in fact, both. But I think so. You had this kind of split and all that in terms of the directions, and then plus many people in plant organizations are kind of suspicious of forming in that kind of idea. Anyway, it's not that they reject the thing and all that, but when you're out there and they're frustrated trying to do some things, and people saying run around doing this and run around doing that, then it causes that's what you begin to be tension.
Yeah.
Well, see, at that point it had gravitated almost like the BWC was counter to the League of Revolutionary Black Workers. And the way it was developing, the way Foreman was moving with it. And James Foreman was the catalyst, but he met Mike first, Mike Hamlin.
Yes.
And he then got on with Ken and Watson. And I remember going to meetings trying to figure out, well, what is this going to mean? Because, see, the nuts and bolts of the organization was the workers. They didn't have that.
Yes.
But they were going out with all these resources. And I'm looking at, so we're trying to do these educationals and tighten up the organization, tighten up the parents of students, in the community, Unicon. We're trying to tighten all this stuff up.
Right.
And they're running. I didn't know some of these people that they were talking about.
Yes.
At that Foreman had all these ideas, and before that, Foreman had also tried to attach himself to the Panthers. In fact, I didn't know that, but I found out about it then.
Yes.
So all these, he called it abstract qualities. When you look at them in the real sense, it was like the BWC was evolving to its own ordinary without the base.
Right.
That's where, and it came to a conclusion in Baltimore.
Right.
That's where it was.
Right.
Because they were operating on a different level.
Right.
While we were still together. When the night of the split, there was tactically there's nowhere else to go. And I agree with Luke in this sense. I think what we saw was the League could have been an extremely powerful. It was, but more so in the political arena had we had time to bring this stuff together, tighten it up, and not go running all over the place, not knowing what's out there.
Yes.
So had the Black Workers Congress emerged from that, it would have been something different.
Yes.
But then by the time you got in there, it was on its way out. I mean, and the basis that was there in terms of the workers had long been gone. So, but I don't know where at 73 we were.
Yes, what he's referring to, Brother Luke, is a conversation that we had before I saw you today, in which I related to John and some other folks how I had actually been in search of a working class organization in 1972 when I came back from East Africa, because I had gone to East Africa in search of more information about Ujamaa socialism. Okay, so I came back really fired up to try to find an organization in which I could work with workers, immerse myself in that kind of work, because I had begun to figure out that that was where I needed to be. I went to Nashville, Tennessee, got a job down there, and ran into some people who were with the Black Workers Congress. But none of the backstory, none of the history that you two brothers have related was ever brought forward. I heard snippets, I heard, you know how people will drop lugs on this one and that one. But I was trying, I was focused on the work of trying to build working class organization in the plants, in the communities in Nashville. none of this became apparent. And as I was saying to Brother Williams yesterday, had I known some of these things, had more of us who joined in the Black Worker Congress, if we had understood more of the history, we would have been more informed cadre. We would have been, we would have better served. We would have been able to sort of raise questions, get information, and perhaps improve what the Black Workers Congress was. It was supposed to be a cadre organization, but it always seemed to have a kind of a split. I don't want to say split personality, but there were elements of the cadre and elements of kind of a community organization as well. And so you have a sense that you're floundering to some extent. And when I look back, I can see how some of the problems that we ran into in 1973, 1974, 1975, and ultimately there was a split in 1974, I believe, and it became the Black Workers Congress and the Workers Congress. Well, I think that some of the problems that contributed eventually to that splitting were probably embedded in the backstory, the conditions that make up the backstory that you two are relating now. So this has been very helpful. I hope that it will, I'm hoping that the entry that we can put together for the encyclopedia, the Black Power Encyclopedia, will be informative to people. And be assured that I will, to the extent that I think I can, I will, make sure that this question of resources and political organization is emphasized in such a way that people will understand that you can have organizations that come into being, but they don't necessarily come into being on a solid foundation. And that is one way that we end up making mistakes when we try to move too fast, when we try to move in directions and don't necessarily have the political and organizational basis on which to do it.
Right. That's one last point. As I was saying to you, in retrospect, the BWC was, I should say, decimation is not the term I want to use, but it was doomed from the beginning. The reason why it was doomed, because the League, which was the fulcrum at that time, it was the basis of the struggle. But remember now, in 1971, the League had accomplished all that it could. Its time limit was up. See, we had a position. See, we've gone back, he and I, Jen, 7, 8 years, and we had this vanguard, the workers. I told you, put out these things, the workers, the vanguard for the workers, razor for the students. So when this drum and all that came on, we're looking, and what we trying to improve, even though we call ourselves Marxists and Leninists, the conditions wasn't there for the revolution that we wanted in terms of.
I understand.
What it was this fight, that fight to get the reform, get reform, get out the what is it called? What's that from the iron foundry? Get people, got them on the board. So all I'm saying is all these things that happened, and it put us so the only reason why the BWC was talked about, why formerly would come in, they're looking at the League, and maybe we can base on this group, build this while we go around the country. Well, there ain't no base. So when the split come, the BWC was through. So it was gone. So I'm saying that's what. So it didn't matter how long they could be around 3, 4 years. It wasn't going anywhere. Because and it put you basically really in a state of quandary at that point. Because the League had reached its point. Well, at the time, but it was through. No question about it. That's what we'd like for people to know today. But with the League having served its purpose, the BWC could go nowhere. That's I just wanted you to understand.
And there was no way for the BWC, regardless of what people's thoughts were, there was no way for the BWC to recreate the history of the League.
No, that's right. No. Material conditions have changed with the changing technology, the globalization, the dislocation, going global low-cost wages, all these things. So you constantly, it's so dynamic, you constantly have to figure out the different kind of vehicles, all kind of adjustments to make a move.
Well, thank you both.
Okay, bro.
All right, man.
Okay.
All right, man. I didn't think we were going to get this.
Oh, yeah, we
But thank you.
Yeah, John, I'm gonna catch you on the rebound.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
okay.
out.
Pleasure.
And